Hey guys, greetings from an unseasonably warm San Francisco. We had I think, 91-degree day today, which is outrageous for the Bay Area. What's even more outrageous is that even very nice, very expensive apartment buildings don't have AC because there are so few really warm days. But when they get hot, it is really miserable. But I digress. So tonight's question is one that really kind of got to me because it reminded me a lot of myself when I was younger. And I think it's certainly worth talking about and taking the time to answer well. Anywho, the question is from Patrick. He says, "Hey Mark, I really like your YouTube videos. They make me feel a lot less lonely. Sometimes I really feel guilty for liking guys, but not so much when I watch you. I'm 16 and I live in Iowa. My question is, should I tell someone I'm into guys? I feel really lonely and sad a lot of the time. I have friends and I've dated girls, but would really like to have someone I can talk to about stuff. I thought about telling my brother or my best friend, but I can't make myself do it. Um, I can't. I know I can't tell my parents, but it would be really nice to have at least one person to talk to. How can I figure out who I should tell or if I should tell anyone? Thanks, Mark. I hope you get the chance to answer." Um, Patrick, thank you for the email. I have to say, it almost made me cry for two reasons. One, I thought it was very touching to me to hear you say that my YouTube videos make you feel less lonely. That was really sweet of you, and thank you for that. Second of all, it reminds me a lot of what I was going through when I was at that age. Now, I never felt guilty for being gay or liking guys. I never had any moral qualms about that particular part of my struggle with coming out. But I was extremely scared of how people would treat me, friends in high school, that kind of thing. And I was also really, really kind of sad and depressed about the idea of disappointing my family or the fact that they might never want to talk to me again. And that was a heavy burden to carry. But I think that it's tough when you live in areas of the country where the overwhelming majority of people are not tolerant. I spend so much time here in San Francisco, in New York, in LA, and it's really interesting how you hear, guys who grew up in these areas very often, but not all the time, they're coming out with so much easier, and they have a harder time relating to what it's like to really be scared to come out, to be so to really feel like you're surrounded by people who would hate you for being born a certain way. Um, and I know exactly what you feel about, saying you're lonely because I can remember there was a time when I thought, like it was like 15, 14 or 15, and I thought, boy, it would just be so great if I could clone myself because I would never have to tell anybody. I would never have to, yeah, I would have somebody that I could talk to whenever I wanted who knew exactly how I was feeling, and then I would never have to tell anybody else. And that was wishful thinking on my part, and but I know exactly how you feel, Patrick. So, on to your question, and let me think how I can tackle it best for you. Again, remember, this is just my opinion. There's often more than one road that will lead you to a destination, but you asked me, so here I go. I think it's uh, very important when you're deciding if you should tell someone or if you should come out. And I'm gonna, even though I know you said you can't tell your parents, I'm gonna address that for you and anybody else who's listening. I think that it's really important that, first of all, I think it's great for everybody to come out, and I wish that everybody could have a really fantastic coming out and big hugs and kisses, and everybody who say, all the parents say, "Oh, it's no problem, don't worry about it." But the truth is that doesn't always happen. And I've met too many guys who were kind of uh, kicked out of their own family, kicked out of their homes at a young age for being gay, and it caused some of them to have really a few very difficult years, or some of them to remain in very difficult circumstances because they got in with the wrong crowd, the wrong habits. So, uh, I think you certainly want to be careful about telling your parents if you're really, really sure that they won't accept it because of either religious reasons, cultural reasons, whatever it may be. I can also tell you sometimes we overestimate how bad the reaction is. It's not always as bad as we think, or it may not be bad at all. But I think people who have really uh, parents with very strong convictions about that particular subject, not just an illogical fear of what will happen, but when they know their parents have really strong convictions, I think it's always better to wait before you come out until you're a bit more independent. You know, at least until you graduate high school. Once you're in college, you can work, you can support yourself, you can start to surround yourself with a support group. Because I can tell you that a lot of people say, "Oh, you should just come out. People have to accept you for who you are, and you shouldn't deny who you are for 1 minute and all of that." And that sounds really great to say until some poor kid gets kicked out and he's on the street and people are taking advantage of him. He gets messed up with drugs or drinking. So, again, Patrick, depending on your circumstance, and this is always situational. I don't know your family or any of this, but uh, I would for your parents, I would probably wait until you're a bit more independent. Now, on to who else you should tell. I probably would not tell your brother, and two reasons for that. One, I think that sometimes, first of all, your brother is always going to be in the house with you, which gives him more opportunities to blab when, if you guys have a fight or an argument or something like that. Um, so I think he's a bit too close to the situation. And again, brothers fight, they argue, things happen, and he might just spill the beans. So he's one that I would put on the list of tell once you're a bit more independent. Your best friend is a possibility. Um, I would caution you to remember one fact. There's a terrible disease that even some good friends are susceptible to, and it's called the loose-lipped disease. Many people have that. It takes an extraordinary person to resist the urge to do what's human nature, which is to socialize and gossip and chit-chat, especially when they think something is juicy. Um, so if you tell your best friend, make sure you can really trust this person. Um, and just be prepared for the fact that once you tell this person, it may not remain a secret. Hopefully it will, but you just never know. What you could do is you could also get online and look to see if there are any local support groups for gay youth in your area. Those can be a tremendous resource. At 16, I'm guessing you have your license and maybe a car, and you could possibly drive yourself to something like a meeting, or you could look online and see if there's any online support groups that are nationwide that you can chat in the forums and talk to people and develop a support network that way. I'll tell you this, whenever you're doing anything online, be incredibly careful about what information you give out. You never give out your real name, home address, any of that kind of stuff, because there are also people who are predatory, who get into these forums that are, where particularly vulnerable people may go to discuss things. So you want to be careful of that. Um, Let me think. You know what else I would do, Patrick? I would tell you to go to YouTube, and instead of listening to me ramble on and on, you can find the It Gets Better videos, which are really incredible to watch. It's about people who grew up in really challenging circumstances regarding their sexuality, and they just never thought things would get better. A lot of them contemplated suicide, and they felt like they were the only one in the world. Nobody could relate to them. And now they have these incredible, thriving lives, and those are so inspirational to watch. That's called the It Gets Better videos, and you should watch them. I would also have you go to the Live Out Loud organization's website. It is really fantastic. I went to a couple of their fundraisers while I was in New York. It's something I contribute to. I think it's just a phenomenal organization. It involves young people around the country, usually middle or high school students, who are working to, bridge the gap between the straight and gay community in either their community or their high school. And I can tell you, watching and reading these stories about these young people who are middle or high school age, I would never have had the courage to do that when I was that age. And just reading about it and watching it it gives you such a sense of strength. And even me now, I'm as out as they come and very happy, very proud, and very content. My family knows, and I've worked through all those issues, but I get goosebumps, reading some of those stories. So you should do that as well. Uh, what else, Patrick? Let me leave you with two more little tidbits. When you do start to broaden your social circle within the gay world, be incredibly judicious about who you choose as your friends. Just like in the straight community, there are some, bad people with bad habits roaming around the gay community. And because you're lonely, because you're kind of craving friends and acceptance from people who can relate to you, it may allow you to accept people into your life that shouldn't be there. So you have to be very cautious of that once you do start to, broaden your social horizons. Be careful who you become friends with. Stay away from the drugs. Don't get into the party scene. Don't think that the gay world revolves around the bar. It doesn't. It doesn't revolve around the bar, the club every Friday night. There are really wonderful, um, great, high quality people in the gay community, both young and old. Don't settle for anything less than a good person as your friend. I knock on wood every day and thank God that I've never done a drug. I've never had any trouble with drinking. I hardly ever drink except iced tea or Diet Coke, occasionally some wine or champagne. But, when I first started meeting people in the gay community, I can't tell you how many people, offered me drugs. Do you want to party? Do you want to do this? And no matter how lonely I was, I never wanted to do anything that would jeopardize my future or my safety. Although I made other bad decisions, I can tell you that, which I hope you don't do. Anyway, so be careful about your friends. Now, I think it's also important. I'm going to bring this up to you because you're 16 and I know what 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old guys think about. And I think in this case especially, be very careful to make sure that you don't go from hookup to hookup seeking a sense of contentment or acceptance. I don't think there's anything wrong with people enjoying sex or having fun with it. Lord knows I've done my fair share. But when I was your age, well, a little bit older, I didn't actually do anything with a guy until I was older. But I did find myself kind of using sex as a substitute for my own lack of self-acceptance. Because for the short time you're with somebody, you do feel accepted and you feel good about yourself and that somebody wants you. And as with most things in life, Patrick, you have to be very careful. It's not just the action, but it's the reason behind it. So you want to make sure you realize that you can only acceptance is going to be internal. It's not going to come from anybody else. It's not going to be an external thing. You have to learn to accept you. Which brings me to my next point. I notice in your email you often are saying, you said, should I tell someone I'm into guys? I feel guilty for liking guys. Uh, I remember when I was that age, Patrick, I used to argue semantics with myself. I would think, well, maybe I'm not really gay. I just might be into guys. I just think guys have hot bodies. I'll probably marry a woman, but I think guys are cute. That kind of crazy stuff. You're literally arguing semantics in your own head, and that's because in a way, it kind of makes it easier for us to accept our feelings. So I just want to take the time to tell you. There is nothing wrong with you being gay, and there's nothing wrong with you realizing or accepting or saying that you're gay. There is nothing wrong with the way you were born. You are just fine as you are, and I hope you get to accept that because that was the greatest thing that ever happened in my life. I know how hard it is to wake up every day uncomfortable in your own skin or worried that somebody's not going to accept you. But, just remember that, Patrick. There's nothing wrong with the way you were born. So thank you again for your question. Uh, that one really got to me, guys. I want to thank you for tuning in. Oh, Patrick, one more thing. When you're trying to stay closeted, it's generally a good idea not to include your last name in the email. I'm kidding with you, but you really shouldn't do that. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Keep a lookout for the new markdillon.com. It's coming very soon. Have a good night.